In this video, I'm going to show you how you can shoot a sequence using your phone that looks like this. So everything you just saw was shot entirely using a smartphone, and the majority of it was shot handheld. So if you're looking to level up your smartphone videos, specifically if you're shooting in the city or any type of urban environment, what are some go-to tips and tricks for capturing the best results possible? Well, in this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 simple tips and techniques that will instantly transform your mobile filmmaking and perfect for any type of busy environment or location. So let's jump straight in with tip number 1, creative transitions. Transitions take your audience from one shot to another. The most basic version of this is a simple cut from one shot to another. But if you're looking to be a bit more creative with your edits, how do you do it? Well, let's use a whip pan transition as an example. For this, we're going to need 2 shots. For the first shot, I'm going to capture this underground train as it arrives at the station and then whip to the left at the end of the shot. For shot number 2, now at Piccadilly Circus, I'm going to whip in from the same direction as clip 1 ended, landing on this double-decker bus. Then in the edit, I'm going to cut my first clip right in the middle of the whip, about here. Then start my next clip right in the middle of the whip in, about here. Let's use this lamppost as a way to hide the cut. This will make it much more seamless. And you can fine-tune this as much as you like. You could add a speed ramp or motion blur to really help blend these 2 shots. Also, sound effects are crucial for these transitions. Use whatever you think works best, but get creative. For this, I'm going to use a whoosh sound effect as well as a bus horn to help really bring this transition to life. Also, another quick tip here for shooting transitions is to shoot them yourself by capturing shots to link 2 other clips together. For example, you could capture a shot of a train whizzing through the frame like this, and then use that shot as a transition. So let's say you had a clip cutting from Big Ben to Buckingham Palace. Now lay your transition clip on top of this cut, and you now have a much more creative transition between these 2 clips. If you'd like me to do a video that delves deeper into the editing side of a sequence like this, just let me know. But for now, let's just focus on how to shoot your footage using time-lapses and hyperlapses. Time-lapses and hyperlapses are an absolute must when filming on a smartphone in urban environments. They're not only easy to execute, but also deliver incredible results. But what's the difference between a time-lapse and a hyperlapse? Well, with a time-lapse, the camera is still, it's not moving, usually on a tripod, and the footage is then sped up. But with a hyperlapse, the camera is moving. You can do this handheld or with a gimbal, and then the footage is sped up. For a time-lapse, it's really important that your camera doesn't move. I'm going to use my mini tripod for this. Now, in your phone's camera settings, select time-lapse, then lock focus and exposure by tapping and holding on your focal point. I'm using the iPhone 13 Pro Max, by the way, but most smartphones these days have this feature. I usually shoot for 1 or 2 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on the scene. Take this shot here, for example, a bit of movement, but not much. But if I move the camera over onto the bridge where there's a lot more people and traffic in the foreground, we get much better results. Both scenes were shot for the same amount of time with the same settings, but the second has much more movement. So it's important to choose your scene wisely. Think about what would look more interesting if you sped it up. Now, with a hyperlapse, exactly the same rules apply, only this time we're going to move our camera. So I'm going to open up my camera app, select time-lapse, and I'm going to hit record. Only this time, I'm going to start walking, trying to keep my focal point in a fixed position. I've enabled the grids on my camera for this, and I'm going to try and keep Big Ben in the middle of the top horizontal line. Now, I know this shot looks incredibly shaky, some would even say unusable, but the benefit to shooting with a smartphone compared to a bigger, bulkier setup is that smartphones have great image stabilization. So once I've captured what I need, I simply stop recording and the phone works its magic. It does all the rest for me, and without any editing or post-stabilization, this is the result. Add some music and sound effects and we now have this. So as long as you have a phone with good image stabilization, hyperlapses are not only one of the easiest shots to capture, but they also deliver the most impressive results. So if you're looking to capture all of the hustle and the busyness of the city, then time lapses and hyperlapses are a great way of doing this. They help emphasize movement, they add more visual interest to your shots, and they give your edits much more impact and pace. I have an entire video dedicated to shooting hyperlapses. I will link it up in the cards and in the description below. Match cuts. Now you may have noticed this technique being used throughout the opening sequence. The phone box, the underground signs, the bike. Match cuts are quick and easy to shoot and can really help elevate your edits. Now to create a match cut, the idea here is simple. Shoot the same thing multiple times at different locations. Let's use this red phone box as an example. I'm going to frame my focal point so that it's nice and centered and then hit record. I'm going to record a few seconds of video. You can do this with still images as well, by the way. I'm then going to repeat this process a few more times at various locations, matching the same framing each time. Then in the edit, line up all of your clips to create a smooth transition and visual connection between each shot. A quick bonus tip here is to capture more interesting angles by using accessories. I use this mini clamp to attach my phone to a bike, resulting in a completely unique perspective. Although, quick heads up here, if you're going to do this, make sure you invest in a strong phone holder. I did not, and this was the result. Now you can get really precise with this and perfectly align each shot or get it thereabouts, it really doesn't matter. Match cuts are another great technique to have in your arsenal as a mobile filmmaker and can really level up your B-roll sequences. Okay, let's talk about shooting in slow motion. Most smartphones these days have the ability to shoot in slow motion, so let's take advantage of it. Now, slow motion is kind of the opposite of a time lapse. Instead of speeding our footage up to emphasize the movement, let's slow it down so that we can appreciate it more. For this, I'm going to select slow motion. I'm shooting at 120 frames per second, and I'm going to focus on anything that I think will look better or more interesting slowed down. The tiny waves rolling through the River Thames, the giant bubbles created by this street performer, the pigeon flying through Piccadilly Circus. In real time, these moments might be missed, but when shot in slow motion, we're able to take each moment in and appreciate it more, allowing the audience to take in more information and see things in more detail. Slow motion also works great for smoothing your footage out. So if you don't have particularly good image stabilization or you've just got a shaky hand, then slow motion is a great way of capturing smooth footage. Slow motion works great shooting with just about any lens. Shoot wide and capture all of the environment. Shoot tight for isolation and focus. Foreground and depth. Adding depth and foreground to your shots is an absolute must when shooting in the city and can really help level up your B-roll. Try using elements within your environment to reveal your location. Think about your shot in layers: foreground, midground, and background. Adding elements to the foreground of your shots will instantly give your videos more depth and a much more professional feel. Also, if you're new to shooting with a smartphone, just keep things simple, especially if you're in the hustle of the city. Try sticking to basic movements: a simple push forward or pull back, a slide from left to right. Short little clips with a dedicated movement for each shot, but with foreground. Foreground is what will create dynamic shots with a much more cinematic feel. So the next time you're out in the city or any type of busy environment, experiment with some or all of these techniques and you'll be amazed with just how much they improve your videos. If you'd like to learn more about shooting using your smartphone or how to edit to get much more professional results, then be sure to check out these two videos here. But that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.